This week on Barbell Shrugged, we talk about the piece in your coaching game that might be missing and how you can shore it up. Make sure to stick around to the end of the episode, and we have action items for you to find out exactly what it might be.
All right, try it again. 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Barbell Shrugged.
I'm Mike Bledsoe here with Doug Larson and Chris Moore and CTV behind the camera.
He threw me off.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So you know the drill.
No, they don't.
Maybe they don't.
What's the drill?
CTV knows the drill. We're all standing here. We're back here at Physical Culture 101, Crossroad Leucadia, hanging out. Those guys have been nice enough to let us record and take over a little corner of the gym. We appreciate it.
This is a cool place to be.
Yeah. Today we're going to be talking about what is coaching. Maybe talk about what it's not. I think there might be some misconceptions. I've had some discussions with people over the last since I was born about coaching, and it's interesting, like what. Sometimes you forget that people kind of maybe attribute coaching to just one aspect of coaching and don't think about the whole picture, and we're going to be talking a lot about that. Before we go any further, make sure to go to barbellshrugged.com, sign up for the newsletter. We have all sorts of cool stuff there for you to check out. If you have not been there before, the website is looking cooler than ever and has got a lot of written content. Chris Moore over here has been putting that together.
Together with some special friends, we got a lot of content there for people to check out. Get your read on. Reading is fundamental, as they say. Do it. It's all free. Check it out.
They say that?
Chris Moore says that.
Reading is fun, capital F-U-N, demental. Everybody knows this shit. Everybody knows this shit. Reading Rainbow and shit.
Reading Rainbow.
Reading Rainbow's coming back too, everybody. Reading fucking Rainbow. Contribute. Support them.
Yeah, Are they on?
They're coming back.
They're coming back. Okay.
Yeah. LeVar Burton or whatever that guy. Yeah, he's bringing the shit back. The guy from Star Trek with that guy.
The blind guy.
Weren't you on an episode of that, Mike? You're like
Star Trek? Yeah, I was on an episode of Star
Reading
Trek.
Rainbow.
You had sex with a purple girl on Star Trek.
You're like, I like the pictures.
I could get her.
That was my favorite book.
So, all right, let's get on the subject here.
Coaching.
Yeah, I was actually having a discussion. I was at a competition this past weekend, and it was one of those things where like the light went off for me. I was like, oh, we should probably just talk about that, because I was talking to somebody, and I was talking about how I don't coach athletes as much anymore, and he was like, oh, don't you write all the programs and not all, most of the programs you guys do and stuff. I was like, oh, I do that. And I was like, it's one of those things where he was like, oh, you knew that? And I was like, well, yeah, I do that. But I don't think about that as coaching.
Yeah, that's just a
I see
small
that as
piece.
Program design. Like, I'm good at writing workouts. I'm good at coaching overall, but I don't do every aspect of coaching with like every athlete we have all the time anymore. And so it was really interesting. I was like, well, yeah, I do program design. And he was like, well, isn't that coaching? And I was like, oh, well, I don't consider it to be that. So it was kind of a wake-up call. I was like, well, he's probably not the only guy who feels that same way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's
like
like
coaching's a broad category that doesn't just involve fitness. And so writing workouts is an aspect of coaching within fitness, but you could be a coach you could be a life coach, which is getting really popular right now. You could be an executive coach for businesses. You could be a fitness coach. There's many different types of coaches you could potentially be, and program design is only like a small part of fitness. I don't think the rest of the world considers writing workouts a part of coaching, because coaching is this other category.
We compared it also to
usually
teaching.
that means interacting with another person and helping them.
We compared it with the idea of being a teacher before, right, Doug, where it's like, you can call yourself a teacher, but if all you do is write like a lesson plan, you don't show up to class and engage and read and get feedback from students, and how can you call yourself a teacher? Coaching's the same, right? You wrote the workout, great. That's just basically the plan for the day. How do you get it executed?
I guess
how do you read the results?
That would be the same as someone writing a book and saying they're a teacher.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. The information alone is great, and it's great you can put it together, but somebody still has to take that, implement it, read the outcomes, adjust course, keep somebody motivated, all this shit we're going to get into.
Yeah, and I truly believe that the workout is a lot of people put a lot more emphasis on the workout itself than they should. I think they'd get a lot better result if they demanded more out of coaching, and that coaches demanded more of themselves than just putting together cool workouts, teaching people how to move, and then kind of just letting that be it.
We talked about why sticking to a program is good from a lot of different, like maybe physiological and just like a planning perspective, but also just for maintaining focus and getting the most out of it. You can't just focus on the program and then switching when you don't get the result. If all of these necessary inputs are completely unaddressed or you haven't even thought about it, so looking for the program won't ever get you the effect, and this will be an explanation why, because the other pieces aren't there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just mentioned being a teacher and explaining why. And I think if you think about coaching as teaching, and you think about if you're teaching somebody, more than likely that person, in a lot of cases, is a novice or a beginner. Most people you're coaching, unless you happen to be someone who coaches high-level athletes, which is a very small percentage of the population overall, most people that CrossFit coaches are coaching in the gym are relative beginners. And for those people, you as a teacher, as a person who explains things to people, you need to realize that most people don't understand why they're doing the things they're doing. So as a coach, one of the most fundamental things I think the way you need to reframe it in your head is that you're not explaining what to do to most of your clients. You should be mostly explaining why they're doing what they're doing. Because most people don't know why they're doing what they're doing. Why are we doing front squats instead of back squats? Why don't we ever do good mornings? We did them at one time. We never did them ever again. Why do we do single leg work? Why do we do cleans? Why do we do snatches? Why do we Metcon? Why do we do strength work? They don't know. They really don't know. You as an expert, as a coach, as an expert, as an athlete that's been doing this for 10 years, you already understand the why. It's just assumed that you know why you're doing it. You're already bought in. You get it. They don't get it. You have to explain to them why it's important for them. Big picture benefits. Maybe you don't explain it to yourself as, well, if I Metcon, I'll burn a lot of calories. Maybe you think that's like overly simplistic and almost stupid. Yeah. But it kind of is and it's kind of not, depending on your perspective and how you're looking at it in the moment. But to the random person that comes into the gym, maybe that's all they want. In their head, all they want to do is burn some calories. Right. Because they're brand spanking new, and that's all they know. They don't have all these other levels of distinctions. They don't really know what's important in the big picture. They just know that they heard burning calories is a good thing, and if they burn calories, they'll get leaner, they'll look better. They heard CrossFit was a good way to do it, and so that's why they're there. And obviously they're going to evolve out of that eventually, but you need to meet them where they're at.
Yeah, meet them where they're at. I guess also, if you can do a really, really good job, like I said, just throwing all this information at them right at the start, do a very good job of getting them to understand why and connect with them just as a person, understand them. And now you can get all the other shit accomplished because they're going to be committed to you. They're going to stick with it. They like you. They understand. They go, okay, now what, coach? Let's do this shit. Now they're ready for a plan. It's the wiser way to approach it.
Yeah, one of the expressions I really like with respect to coaching is that you should be a guide on the side, not a sage on the stage. Which right now, on the podcast, we're more or less being sages on the stage. This is not a communication.
We can be sages. No one else can be. Let us be your sage.
Like right now, we're not technically coaching.
Right.
We might be considered, authors, or we're providing information. But this isn't coaching, though. Mostly coaching, if you're being a guide on the side, is you being there with the other person, they're doing something, and then as they're going through it, you're giving them little cues, little tips. It'd be like coaching someone on technique, like, no, put your butt down a little more, and they try it, you go, how'd you feel? Did that feel good? Like, there's an interaction there, there's a conversation there. So this isn't technically coaching, this is just providing advice. So coaching, good coaching, in my opinion, is being that guide on the side, and most of that means questions. You're asking them questions. You're getting their feedback. You're asking them how they feel, what they think. What do you want to do? Why did that feel good? Why did that feel bad? And you're letting them learn, like Socratically, by questioning them. And then if they give you like a totally wrong answer, you say, well, why do you think that? Had you thought about this? And you're letting them work through the process themselves. And they're going to learn faster in that case if you can do that Socratic method of mostly questioning, and then you can kind of guide them through questions.
I saw the Jedi do it himself, Anders Zedeleko, asking Christmas Abbott. Like that whole technique wad was question. You see her mind unfurl, and she grows, and now her expectation of how well she should be performing or executing that lift in the gym, rise, all on their own. He just sat back and said, do you think it's good enough? Would you like to move back? What else did you want? Those questions fucking made her bloom. And during that drill.
And that's like working with a why during like a training session, but just from the assessment perspective. So anytime you have an athlete, client, whatever, and they come in and you, the first thing is an assessment. You figure out where they are so you can meet them where they're at, and start them from there. And just finding out why they even walked into the gym in the first place. Why do they want to do your program? That type of thing, digging down really deep there. Because like you were saying, like some people are like, you ask them, they walk in the gym, they're like, why do you want to come here? It's like, oh, I heard this is the best way to burn calories. It's like, well, why do you want to burn calories?
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, I would like to lose some weight. And it's like, well, is losing weight really what you want, or do you want to look, you want a 6-pack abs, which may not mean losing weight. And so, like, dig down further and further into exactly why they're doing what they're doing. So some athletes, it is going to be like weight loss. Some athletes, they want to be more athletic. They want a faster 5K time because they want to have that medal and show that they're better than other people. Yeah. but seriously,
as long as you're honest,
they want to look good.
That's the thing.
The deeper reason.
It's like most people aren't honest with themselves, even for their reason. And then that's like where the assessment should start from, like a psychological perspective. How can you work with somebody if you don't really know what they want? Because if you are working with them on their surface level that they told you, you're not going to keep them motivated very long. But if you can get down to like exactly what it is, there's a huge motivation piece to coaching.
I think if you get down with both sides being honest, like, I know honestly what you want. Here's honestly how I think this is the best way to. That's a great way to start a client-coach relationship too. Like, start with laying it all out, getting right down to why this matters, and then starting fresh.
And I've learned a lot of this stuff because I moved away from coaching as many athletes, and I'm coaching more coaches. And it's like, then it gets really fast. It's like, if coaches can coach other coaches and then go back to athletes, I think they would be, much better at what they do, for sure.
Yeah, digging to those deeper reasons of why someone's there. A lot of people call that peeling the onion. Like, if you can picture an onion, it has many different layers, and you can tear off a layer, and then there's another layer of onion right below it. You can tear off another layer, and you're trying to dig towards the center, towards the core. And that's what you're doing a lot of times. With the example you just gave, why do you want to be here? I want to burn a lot of calories. Why do I want to burn a lot of calories? Well, I want to lose some weight. I want to lose some fat. Why do I want to lose fat? I want to look better. Why do you want to look better? I just broke up with my girlfriend, and now I'm back on the market, and I need to look better. I'm not going to get laid. Okay, now we're like at something that's a little more primal. Okay,
gotcha, coach.
So now when you're communicating with that person, like, they're in the middle of Metcon, they're getting tired. You're like, come on, like, fucking pick it up. You're not going to get laid. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm not going to get laid.
You got to talk to the reptilian brain.
That's right. You got to talk to those deeper emotional drivers. Yeah. Right. We're trying to be paleo. Like, the primal drive to mate is like as paleo as it gets.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, and those are usually the goals. The goals are you peel back the onion, you find out like the real reason why, and they have goals around that aren't behavior goals. They're outcome goals, and we talked about that on our New Year's special. Which episode was that? CTP? You got a microphone in your mouth.
Oh, geez.
156, 157, I don't know. Yeah, but we talked about on that episode outcome goals versus behavior goals. And so, like, peeling back that onion, finding out the why, which is going to be that, that result they look for, and then, teaching them, like, kind of like walking them through how to set behavior goals to reach that.
Yeah, I think a good distinction also is you're giving them, like, some people go, yeah, okay, well, I'll just tell them to get laid. Great. Well, you can give them everything they need by starting with the real reason they came in. You can always feed in the real, like, bake in more value, exposing the bigger ideas. Even though you start with, hey man, just get laid.
Bacon
values. Baconvalues.com.
I was daydreaming until I heard bacon.
No, you can include everything you eventually want to get them to see and get motivated by a little later on. But start this way. Start right where they are. Again, you can always they'll come up with you, even though you start with the getting laid thing.
Yeah, finding out what they want really has the majority of that has to do with how you communicate with that person. So, like, in the example I just used, like, you could take one step back and just say that really, no matter what we're doing, we're trying to achieve greater status. Right, almost no matter what you're doing, you're trying to learn, trying to work out, you're trying to, you're at the bar, like you're trying to talk to people, make new friends, like trying to get laid. Like, it's all about increasing or raising your status in some capacity.
More shirts with flowers will get you there. Flowery shirts.
Flowery shirts, bold confidence.
People have different methods to increase their status. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to find out, like, what do they think the best method is to increase their status? That way you can communicate that back to them, and they think you're on the same page as them. They feel understood. Now you're a trusted advisor, and they will take your advice. Most of the conflict that happens with coaching is that someone says something along the lines of, well, I don't want to do that. I can't do that. And then you come in and say, yeah, you can do it. Right? And they're like, I can't do that, or what? And you say, no, you can do that. And there's like this argument almost.
So conflict.
Yeah.
And no one's going to agree with you when you're in conflict.
Yeah. Like, you're trying to get someone to accept your suggestion. It's not that they actually don't want to or they actually can't. It's that they don't feel understood in the moment, or you don't understand why they're saying it. You're saying, yes, you can, because you think they can from your perspective, but from their perspective, they can't. You're trying to find this middle ground. So if you can say, why do you think you can't? And then they can come back and say, well, because of this. And you go, why do you think that? And then they'll say, well, it's because of this other reason. You'll say, okay, well, why is that? And if you can just like help them peel the onion, then usually once they feel understood, they're much more accepting of your advice. Or now you realize that you had it wrong and they probably shouldn't do that thing because now you know their knee hurts or whatever. Yeah. And then you say, oh, well, yeah, you're right. That's not a good idea.
If you get down to a very real reason why that can't happen, then it doesn't matter how much you're going to scream at them.
Right.
My fucking knee is broke.
Right. It all comes down to understanding why. It comes down to them feeling understood or you understanding why they're saying it. And once you can figure that out, then the conflict kind of automatically resolves. And they're much more accepting of whatever advice you're trying to give them.
Again, I think the most important thing to take from that is the more questions you ask, probably the better off you'll be all over your life. Not just coaching, but the more questions you ask, the better.
The better a coach I become, the better I become in all my relationships in life.
This particular nugget I should write down for myself. I'm going to be at all honest.
Yeah, and that goes into mentality. I think some coaches find that they attract a certain type of athlete. They go, I only attract athletes that are like this or that. And it's usually because they're like that themselves. But you could probably handle athletes of a lot of different walks of life and mentality. If you go back to that whole listening, understanding, some people want to be screamed at. Some people are going to you run into like a John North or something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you give him any workout. It won't matter. He's going to accomplish it no matter what. And then you've got some people, you give them a workout, and they're going to look at it on paper and go, I can't do that.
You know a basic resource a coach could go to for learning the basic personality types? That's always a go-to good thing. Like, look, there's archetypes of behavior. If you don't recognize that some people respond to that, some people are more introverted and aren't going to deal with that, then you're gonna lose the battle right up front.
I think the biggest thing is I don't know about a resource, but one of the things I try to do is align with someone's values, which is kind of going back to the why. But some people, they may value money, or they value learning, or they value good food or something like that. A lot of times you can kind of tie it back into their values as well.
Yeah, I like that. It's simple approach.
Or some people value their family really high, and so you got to hey, you got to work out for your family.
Yeah, exactly.
And so some people's mentality is they're along the lines of I want to just train hard and I want to be on stage. And I want to hit big weights, and I want to inspire other people and all that kind of stuff. And then you have some people who are I just want to work out so I can live a long life and be able to play ball with my kids when I'm 50, 60 years old.
Or, again, the whole laid thing.
Or I was going to say, have you ever peeled back an onion and it wasn't get laid? These onions are all very sexy.
Seems like everything comes down to that at some level eventually.
Yeah,
we're fucking primates. Let's get down to brass fucking tacks. We're smart apes looking for fun and action and salty, fatty things. We're not hard to fucking figure out.
Well, that whole status thing, you could,
right?
That's you're oh yeah. You know what? I'll accept that. I do it for status,
right?
But I won't accept that I'll do it all for the sex. And it's
Yeah, the status is to help with mate selection if you want to talk about an evolutionary psychology type terms. But really, that's funny you say that because people used to try to push things towards it's all about sex, it's all about mating, and there's resistance in society. Nobody wants to talk about that or admit it, in a lot of public forums and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so they rolled it back to status and then everyone was like, well, yeah, of course, but nobody says why do you want status? They cut it off one level before the actual kind of end goal there. It's not just purely about having sex. It's mate selection. It's the fact that you can have a family, put your genes into the future, et cetera, et cetera.
I'm gonna get super real here, okay?
Oh shit!
Oh yeah!
Here comes the wisdom.
You're ready, brace for impact.
No, it's absolutely true. Even though I'm married, I don't plan on being with other women. I still want other women.
Your wife just walked in, by the way.
Yeah, she's here. She's listening.
Never mind.
Look, I'm not saying I'm unhappy married. It's just that I really do like chicks too. And
but here's the thing: is getting attention from other women, even though I don't plan on doing it, is a huge.
It tickles your fancy.
Yeah, it tickles my fancy. So,
for more on that, Doug, you'd say people who want to learn more about that because we won't get too. That's a big pie in and of itself. Motivation.
That's a huge tangent.
Jeffrey Miller's Mating Mind, right?
Oh yeah. Jeffrey Miller's a friend of ours. He's got some awesome books, Mating Mind and Spent.
Spent is very good too.
Yeah.
Mating Mind's all about purely about sex and relationships and whatnot, and Spent is all about how those kind of sexual primal drives drive our spending habits, which is really, really interesting.
Yeah.
And people are spinning in your gym too.
I'm going to pull the train back on the tracks. Another thing needed to consider when doing an assessment, when you get a new athlete, either in your gym or if you're an online coach or something like that, is consider their training history. So for me personally, I find out someone hasn't been training at all, then you got to start really, really basic on everything. And as Doug was talking about earlier, is you want to dig as deep into the why as possible to almost a ridiculous amount of why. Like sometimes it's easy to forget. I mean, if I've been in the fitness industry, and studying that stuff since for like 18 years. So for me, like sometimes I think I'm being basic and I'm digging into the why for someone, and then they ask a question. I go, oh, we got to go even further back than that. It's like I almost have to really have to try to put myself in their shoes and go, okay, I got all these problems. I've never trained before. What am I scared of? All that kind of stuff.
It's like a proper thought experiment.
But you gotta you gotta think back, okay, history. Or you get someone who's been under 2 years. That's still fairly new. If you've only been doing CrossFit or training weightlifting for under 2 years, I still consider you a novice.
It's also really tough though if you might get an advanced athlete at the start, and then they have a whole separate history. There's a hitting injury. There's some things that are trained very well, and because of that, there's other things that are really behind. And because they think they're awesome, it's going to be hard to get them to see why fundamentals are important. There's a lot of questions right there.
There is a lot of that, too. Yeah, they may have a big training history, but not a healthy training history. Right.
If you get a meathead like me and there's been powerlifting and playing Division I football for 20 years, there's a lot to fix.
There's a lot of doing, not a lot of thinking.
There's a lot of stubbornness, a lot of dumbness, and then a lot of injuries and tight, jerky-like tendons.
Doug and I were just talking about that, too. It's like I've always been a big doer my whole life. It's like if something hurts, that's the only time I address it. I'm not good at being proactive. And I'm a huge advocate of being proactive for other people.
Do as I say.
Yeah, and the older I get and the more injuries I've accumulated, I definitely have become more proactive. But going back to training history, it's something to consider as well. I think a lot of times people kind of skip past that and go, this program's good for everybody. It's with our stuff, most of the things we do are we assume that people are fairly in the beginning stages, 2 years and less.
That's a big thing too is personality type differences, like getting someone's history or doing some type of an assessment on them. You can learn kind of how people are. Like if you know that you're training you versus training me, you're a person who's a doer. You just want to go try it out, get the experience of it, and then you're willing to learn about it after you've had the experience. Whereas I can go learn about it first, and then I want to try it. You want to try it and then go learn about it. And just knowing that about somebody, you can program for them differently, or you can coach them differently. If you've never done a clean before with a client who's a super doer, you're like, it kind of looks like this. Try it out. You just give it to them. But if you do that with some other people, you'd be like, it kind of looks like this. Try it out. They're just like, well,
that's true.
Where do I put my hand? Where do I stand? Can you show me again? And they're so fucking confused because that's just the wrong personality type to do that type of training.
That's how I learned everything. I did my first muscle up. I watched a video. I grabbed the rings. And just kind of tried it a couple times and I did it.
Oh fuck, that hurts. Don't do it that way.
Butterfly pull-ups. No instructional videos. I tried to watch a couple of instructional videos on butterfly pull-ups years ago, and I was like, and I would do the drills. I'm like, you know what? Screw it. Every time I walk in the gym, every time I walk by a pull-up bar, I'm gonna do 5 attempts.
Yeah, neither one's really
and
right
then,
or wrong.
A month later, I was just like,
it's a preferred approach. It's not a right or wrong thing, right?
Yeah, it's like I can't learn that way, and there's probably a lot of people like that who you're frustrating.
Yeah, on that note too, like if you're training someone like me, maybe you write out this whole workout and I do the warm up and I feel terrible. It's written down though. If I, not me, but I'm experienced enough at this point to be able to opt out of a workout if it doesn't feel good. But someone who has my personality type, they're going to do the whole workout
no matter
as
what.
it's written, no matter what, no respect to their feelings at all.
Yeah.
Or a person like Mike, he might walk in and be like, I just don't feel very good today. Maybe I should take the day off. He's very in tune with how he feels, and he might come to you and have a conversation about it. I wouldn't say shit. So you might have to ask me how I feel. Because I'm not going to come tell you. Right? My personality type is not very in tune with my feelings, if you will. I'm very in my head. I'm very logical, and I'm going to follow the directions.
Yeah.
Right? So just knowing that about somebody, you might have to ask a person like me, you feel good today? Anything hurting? Do you feel like you need to take the day off? You want to go harder today? You're going to have to walk me through that process where someone like Mike might come and just tell you all that without you ever saying anything.
Oftentimes in a class, you guys, somebody like each of you is going to be in that class. I mean, you can probably assume that somebody's going to prefer one approach or the other, and you got to be. You can't just sit at the front of the class and shout out what's going to happen and then just watch how low people are going on their squats. That engagement is where it will happen. You got to keep reading. Yeah. I guess in time you'll know exactly who is like Mike and who is like you in this example. But yeah, you're going to have to do this both techniques in one coaching session.
Yeah, I mean it takes experience. I can having done it for so long, I can meet somebody within a minute. I know who they are. I know what approach to take, and that just takes experience. You start trying one method with somebody and you see that it's not clicking, just switch to the other. And being able to change gears is going to be really helpful. So that's kind of like what we're talking about with assessment. I mean, I think assessment, a lot of times people talk about, doing mobility assessment, find out, and that's definitely one of the first steps. But, I mean, we spend a lot of time on the psychology right here. I think that's something that's commonly not taught. It's just not taught. And because there's so much focus, and it's not technical either. I think, Doug might disagree because he's a more technical guy. He's like, oh, no, you could totally write that out. And for me, I'm like, I have to try. It's only from experience.
It's art.
It's like, there you go. It's like, yeah, to me, I feel like it's an art. To Doug, he's like, no, it's totally a science. He's like, we can distill this down to these 3 basic principles. And I'm like, what?
But questions, observation. Like, I always think of this one book when I think of it. Making Better Observations. On Looking is a great book on it. It just teaches you, it goes through these scenarios on how you can, your awareness, you're always going to filter out some bit of information. You're always going to skip something because you're a primate and you don't have time for everything. But it's very good to work specifically on drills where you're actively trying to look for things you normally don't notice. I think just doing that and practicing that, like you said with personality types, before you know it, you'll enter a room and you'll pay attention to the details and you'll look to the people who are in there and you'll try to read them. You'll be better at observing if you just practice it.
Or you run into that coach that can hear a snatch.
Yeah, like the sound of the plates jiggling and all that.
It's like you see that and you're like, it's like your periphery. It's like, oh, you try this, and they're like, you weren't even watching. It's like, that's experience.
So
Roy Munson.
You have to go into it and go, what?
Roy Munson.
Roy Munson.
Kingpin, man.
Oh shit. Yeah, but I mean, unless you get in the habit of going in, what do I hear? What do I see? What do I sense? Who's in here? What are they like? You got to be asking yourself those questions to train yourself to do it automatically.
Yeah. All right, let's roll into some other things that make a good coach. I mean, during the assessment, you also want to cover the movement stuff. You're going to look and see, okay, we probably shouldn't be prescribing overhead squats and kipping pull-ups to somebody who's like completely internally rotating their shoulders. They're going to probably just, a month later not want to come back to you. And things like that, so you can program intelligently for them. And if you're in a facility where you're not writing the programs but you're coaching, that's where like the virtuosity comes in. You can spot stuff. The person may have been told at some point you should avoid these movements, but if they're hard-headed, like we all are at some point, until you're injured, you're hard-headed is usually how it goes.
Projecting.
That's me.
Man, Doug, what is he talking about?
Doug's over there analyzing me. But, you got to be the one to watch that movement at all times. Mm-hmm. And then hold them accountable to doing the right thing. So not only keeping them accountable, we were actually just in the gym. We witnessed accountability happen. That's like one of the.
You did?
Yeah. One of the.
In the wild.
I experienced it. Yeah, in the wild of physical culture. There was a trainer training somebody, and he walked over and said something to me and Doug, and then the lady he was training comes up and goes, I think I'm just gonna call it a day. I was like, I've had enough. And he was like, what? No. He's like, you're finishing this workout. And
so he was kind of like, okay.
Yeah, it was one of those things where it was like, as we're like talking about doing the show on this, I saw the perfect example of accountability. Mm-hmm. So you hold them accountable while they're in the gym. You hold them accountable to doing the movements that they can and can't do. And then also holding them accountable, like, if they haven't showed up in 3 days, you put on their Facebook wall, where have you been, you loser, you? Yeah. You don't want to say that.
If they're the kind of people who respond, they get motivated by public humiliation and whatnot.
That's me.
That's you? Okay.
I like to be called really horrible things.
I get my feelings hurt. You can't try that with me, Michael.
I know. I've tried it with you, and then you just ignore me for days.
Inside, I'm really more of a 17-year-old
girl,
pubescent girl who's emotionally not very in touch with her feelings, I guess. I love chocolate. I love late night.
Like Ben and Jerry's.
Romantic.
Like Ben and Jerry's.
Late night Ben and Jerry's. Yeah, it makes me feel better about everything.
I was super lucky growing up. Like Mark, my strength coach growing up, he held me accountable for everything, especially good technique. Like in a lot of CrossFit gyms, they're like, oh, we always use good technique. And then you go there and you watch them coach, and everyone's not using good technique, but they're all beginners, not the coach's fault. But they're not actually holding people accountable as much as I was held accountable. Like, I straight up was not fucking allowed to ever do anything wrong ever. And if I ever got in a good starting position, it was just like, stop, no. don't fucking pick it up. You're not allowed to.
Don't even start.
Yeah, like we would sit there and just work on starting position over and over and over again. If I wasn't getting a good position, we would elevate the weight, or we would move to hang cleans, or there was something was done. The weight was lightened until I could do it correctly. I was never allowed to do it incorrectly. And it's like that in gymnastics too. Gymnastics is you're basically scored on your technique. The whole sport is about being perfect and having perfect technique. That's the sport. Like getting things done and just accomplishing them and looking good on paper. Not the case at all. It's not like you lift 1,000 pounds.
It has to work that way.
Yeah, you power lift 1,000 pounds. You squat 1,000 pounds in a powerlifting meet. Rather, you get to depth, knees dive in, shaky. You look like shit. You're on your back. As long as you stand up and rack it on paper, 1,000 pounds, you win. Not like that in gymnastics at all. It's all about being perfect. So I did gymnastics for like 5 or 6 years when I was young, and then I moved into weightlifting with a person who was always holding me accountable. And now I have very good technique because I just simply wasn't allowed to. So as a coach,
you as jealous as me? These conversations.
I'm extremely jealous. Yeah, I was put out in the wild by myself. I had to raise myself on weight training.
You should have said it like Scottish. Like, had to raise myself.
Had to raise myself in the Highlands, picking up stones.
Yeah. So as a coach,
I feel like a big issue with that though is like in the CrossFit classes, especially if you're training with other people, you got 5 or 6 people, and then the coach sees that you're the one with the bad technique. We've talked about this before. You go over there and, it's a battle between like motivating them psychologically and then trying to get them to do the technique because you don't want to make them because they're going to have to scale and that's going to be its own thing. So,
yeah, absolutely. The interesting part about retaining somebody at your gym is that you kind of have to play this game where you're letting them do something that maybe they shouldn't be doing, but it motivates them, and that's going to let them come back because they think it's fun and exciting.
Right, you got to have that balance.
And keeping them safe at the same time. So there's definitely a psychological component to that. In my case, I was already motivated. So if you have someone who isn't motivated, then you have to play this game a little bit where you can let them rather do some things that maybe are a little bit beyond what they're currently capable of, but they can't be things that are unsafe.
Right.
Like if this is a total disaster and they're going to hurt themselves, then obviously they can't do that. But you could let them do something else. So if they can't do full cleans from the floor because they have a round back, well, you can modify it and let them do hang cleans. It doesn't mean that you have to like take them back and just do goblet squats with them, and the whole class is doing cleans, and now they feel like a loser. Yeah. You're always playing that game where you're doing the back and forth of safety versus motivation.
Right.
Well, that's your main point.
Right.
We've talked before on the importance of being responsible and stepping in and playing the role of protector over who you're coaching and being the person who's going to make sure that they get the best possible outcome, and you do not allow them to do things that are going to hurt their progress and hurt their long-term health.
Yeah.
As we all know, once you get hurt, then progress comes to a screeching halt.
Yeah. And in a lot of ways, we're even just teaching this to anyone listening to this show, like we've almost skipped over the thing that we think is obvious.
Oh yeah, what's that?
Right, the why behind listening to this as a coach is that you can give your clients better results. But we assume that to be the case, and so we didn't even mention results. Right. Like we're almost having this is like
we're making
us
the
not
mistake.
following our own advice, right? Because coaching this specific thing is new to us as coaches. Like coaching athletes on movement is something we've practiced a lot, and so it's obvious to follow the advice we're giving. But now we're coaching a new topic in a way to coaches. And so now we're making the same fallacies that we're talking about. So so all this being said, everything we're saying is with the frame of if you do this, you'll give people better results.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Yeah. Yeah, and kind of how we started off is like people think about coaching, they think about either standing in class and teaching movement or writing the program. And so writing the program and teaching the movements is definitely a part of coaching, but I think people put so much emphasis on it because there are certifications that revolve around that specifically. There's certifications for movement. You go for a weekend, and that's all you do is talk about movement, talk about program design for about 5 minutes, and so on and so forth. You'll go to another certification, and they'll talk about movement selection, and then program design, and maybe they'll get into some other stuff. But talk about different workouts for different types of people, different goals, assessing a weakness, and writing workouts and movements to assess those. Those are definitely part of coaching. Definitely part of fitness coaching, becoming a better performer. Becoming a better performing athlete. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So do we want to dig into those few things and the rest of that category when we come back after a break?
That's a great
idea.
We should. Yeah. We've been going. Hey guys, Mike Bledsoe here from the Barbell Shrugged podcast, here to do a technique WOD on the snatch. The snatch is my favorite movement of all time. Not just because of the name, but because it is a full body movement. It's very athletic. It takes a lot of precision, finesse. It is probably the hardest thing that you could master in the world of fitness. If you don't know what a snatch is, Alex, my assistant here, will show you exactly what a snatch looks like. Give us a snatch, Alex. So some of you may be thinking, well, that was easy. He just grabbed a bar and he threw it over his head, and it looked silly. But a lot of you, if you're familiar with CrossFit or the sport of weightlifting, are very familiar with that and understand how difficult it can be. So we're going to go over the movement, break it down just a little bit. I'm going to start with the starting position. So this is not a deadlift. A lot of people make the common mistake that they should set up like a deadlift and they bring their shins right up to the bar. That is definitely what you should not do. So for most people, that's going to be, the bar is going to start over the ball of their foot, all right? So a little bit forward of mid-foot, just as Alex is set up here. It's going to be a little bit different for everybody. As you get more into practice, you'll find exactly what position works best for you. It's going to depend, it's going to vary from person to person, little by little. All right, so he's going to start standing there. He's now going to reach down. He's going to actually push his knees forward and let his shins come to the bar, all right? So again, not like a deadlift. If you're doing a deadlift, your hips would be higher. So Alex has his hips lower here. Notice that he has his shoulders in front of the bar here. So if I'm looking at this arm, it's almost straight up and down. What he doesn't want to do is sit back towards, he doesn't want to sit back anymore. You don't want to look like that. You want to bring your shoulders in front of the bar. This back is going to stay nice and tight here. And then he's also going to be engaging his lats a little bit right here. So as he comes up, he's going to be using his shoulders to keep that bar close to his body. So we're going to do the first half of the snatch. So Alex is going to lift this bar up and bring it up to his hips. And so as he's here, again, even right here at the hips, his shoulders are slightly in front of the bar. His weight is towards his heels here. So if you were to think about where your weight should be, it's at the front of your heels here. All right, let's go back to the floor. So that's what it's going to look like. You're going to squeeze the bar off the floor. You don't want to yank it off the floor, which is another common mistake. So he's going to squeeze it off the floor. He's going to get above the knees. He's going to touch the bar to his hips. And then he's going to jump and pull himself underneath the bar. So he's going to let that bar, he's going to squeeze that bar off the ground. As it comes up, he's going to explode and jump up. That bar is going to meet him at his hips. And it's going to get over his head. The biggest problem most people have is keeping that bar close and the bar meeting their hips, all right? Once you've got that, now you really need to focus on pulling underneath the bar. A real common mistake is that there's a lot of hips. No, we have to edit that out. One of the things that people do is they find they can really meet the bar really well with their hips, and they find they're snapping that, and then they're really lazy about getting underneath. And so what you really want to do is make sure that after you master that hip extension and really firing that bar up off of your hips, that you then remember to involve your arms just as much as you did with your hips. So this is much of an emphasis on pulling underneath as it is with pulling up. So think about pulling up with your hips and underneath with your arms and shoulders. It's one continuous pull. All right, so remember that and watch Alex. He keeps the bar nice and close as it goes past his chest, past his face, and overhead. Hopefully this is going to help you move forward in your adventures and It's an adventure. In your snatch adventures. All right. I can't even think now. For more information about how to perfect your snatch, damn it. All right, for more information on the snatch, go to barbellshrugged.com. We've got more technique videos, technique WOD videos, breaking down the snatch to the smaller components of the lifts.
What Mike's trying to say is that this is kind of a general overview, And we have other videos on Technique WOD where we break down the movement into its component parts. We go over like the first pole, the second pole, the transition, the catch phase, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're more advanced and you want to have more details on each specific part of the lift and you want mobility drills or other weightlifting drills, I feel like I'm just like really close to you right now. And you have more weight, you
got to talk into the microphone.
I felt weird. I was like right here on
All right. If you want any more information on all that other stuff, go to barbellshrugged.com.
Hopefully we got that.
And we're back.
What are they talking about?
We are singing songs, Doug.
Sex.
You missed out on my beautiful voice. If you could just imagine my voice singing, it's terrible.
Needs a little polishing, I think.
A little polishing, maybe some lessons. We're wanting to talk about coaching. Yeah, I should probably get some coaching on my singing, or I'll probably just abandon it altogether.
Have somebody hold you accountable.
So we want to talk about exactly how you might be able to refine your coaching skills.
What are you neglecting
yes,
and how to
coaching
fix it?
is program design. Coaching is teaching people about movement. But and those are the things that people commonly associate with it. But we want to challenge you to go deeper and be able to communicate better with your athletes and stuff like that. And that is what we try to do with our programs. Is yes, we do offer what is typically known as like a list of workouts for program design. We do have instructional videos with Technique WOD on how to do that. But like when we have programs and stuff, our coaches are highly trained in being able to figure out where people are at and give them the advice they need specifically for them to reach the specific goal they have. And so that's kind of what we're digging into now. And we're going to talk about how you, if you're a coach, how you can be a better coach. And this just doesn't apply to people who are kind of in the fitness industry. This applies to, if you're a mother or a father. I mean, you're coaching your kids. This is any type of mentorship at all, really. So.
Yeah, and if you're a mentor, that means you're not a mentor just the 1 hour someone's in the gym. A lot of people call it a CrossFit therapist. Like they realize once they start coaching that they're not just coaching movement, that they're really they're dealing with a whole person.
Lifestyle.
They're getting the whole package. They're getting all the things that happen in the gym and out of the gym. They're getting all that person's problems, all that person's fears, their frustrations, like
a
their
hairdresser?
aspirations for the future. Like you're turning into a therapist. You're a life coach in addition to a fitness coach. And if you can coach that all. You can coach them comprehensively, or we call it integral coaching a lot of times. Mike, one of those terms that Mike coined a while back.
Integral performance coaching.
IPC.
IPC.
That's right. Yeah, so recognizing that you're not just coaching movement, you're not just writing workouts, that you're actually coaching this person on how to be a better person. You can kind of like kick it up one level and realize it's not just fitness. You're trying to make them a better person in all aspects of their life. Then now you're not just this one guy they met one time that helped them learn how to do push-ups better. Now you're like you're an actual advisor to them. You are someone they look up to in all areas of their life.
Absolutely.
This is something that didn't really occur to me like in the beginning of being a fitness coach. When I first started, to me in the beginning it was before CrossFit came along, it was all about program design. It was like, how do we write workouts to solve problems? What movement can we do to solve this problem?
The magical combination of numbers.
And then I got deep into movement, like, how can we get people to move just right? And I didn't think too much about program design. And then I kind of came back around to lots of program design. And then with Doug as a huge on movement, like he was talking about before, he had a background where it was all about movement. And then Doug kind of brought to my attention more the mobility side of things. And then Kelly Starrett also helped kind of, I had Doug telling me, and since we're really good friends, it's hard for me to accept his advice sometimes. But Doug's always like, mobility. Kelly Starrett comes along and I go, I'm like, this Kelly Starrett guy is amazing. Doug's like, this is all the shit I've been telling you the whole time.
For 7 years.
Yeah. So, and so like he's like, okay, I got the program design down. I got the movement down. I got the mobility down. I got the nutrition down. Get all that stuff dialed in. And then I started having my own coaches, but on business.
Yeah.
And then I find that anytime I do I've hired a business coach. And like so much of what I work with him on my business stuff is like personal stuff, and like really digging into like what I need to get out of my own life and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's coaching. And so I was like, now it's like, if you have all those aspects and then you bring in the whole lifestyle thing and like getting out of life what you really want and the fulfillment aspect, to me, that's integral, like performance coaching.
It's all stitched together.
If your lifestyle is lined up as an athlete outside of the gym and you can really recover when you're supposed to recover and the training is serving your lifestyle and stuff like that, that's the sign of a good coach, if you can help athletes go that direction.
Yeah, obviously with this podcast, we're trying to fill in the pieces of coaching that we think are neglected by coaches, by and large, like movement and programming. People always talk about that. It's constantly talked about. So we're not really talking about that in any level of detail here.
It is important, but we don't feel like it needs to be. That's a dead horse.
We're talking about the other stuff. And to your point, damn it, I had something really good to say, and I just fucking lost it.
To your point.
Hit him in the head. Maybe.
Somebody bonked me in the head.
No, he'll just kill you. Yeah, so one of the things you can do is practice perspectiving. And when I first discovered...
It's a real thing, not a crazy-ass word.
Yeah, and, well, it is a crazy-ass word.
Not just a crazy-ass word.
Not just crazy. Yeah, perspectiving. It was actually, perspectiving was brought to my attention by a guy named Eben Pagan. And I think he actually made the word up. And because you have perspectiving and then you have empathy. And so like they've done studies where they have empathy and then perspectiving can also be called see-through or, knowing what people are thinking. So empathy is knowing how people feel or feeling what someone else is feeling. And that's important. There's a lot of benefit to that. But see-through or perspectiving, understanding what people are thinking is even more powerful. So whereas empathy is important, and, usually, like, people associate, like, a lot of women have a lot of empathy. I mean, that's pretty common, and guys usually lack in that. And I think empathy is extremely important, but the perspectiving or see-through and seeing the way people think, I think is 10 times more powerful.
Do you think it's a harder thing to get down? Like, is it more of an unnatural thing? It's easy to feel. You can look at somebody experiencing something and feel it.
I think there's a natural... Everyone has some natural empathy built in unless they're a sociopath.
There are some of those out
there. And it is something that can be developed. But the see-through is something like that people don't... Like, if you were to go through your whole life and no one talked about it, you wouldn't even think about it. We've all met that person who, like, you can't convince them of anything ever. Like, they have their lens that they see the world through, and they will never consider... Like, I meet some people sometimes, I was like, they have no idea that people think differently than they do. I mean, and I know that because I used to be one of those people. So, I mean, I remember watching myself. I can look back at myself in the world, see myself going through the world thinking, everyone is so stupid. If they just thought like me, everything would be so good. You know what I mean?
And everybody just read the Fountainhead. All this shit would just go away.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a perfect example, yeah. And so, like, I was like, man, if they just understood this philosophy, this world would be a better place. So... It occurred to me at some point, there's no way ever that people are going to see things the way I'm going to see them.
No.
What I have to do is accept that they see things differently. And years ago, I stopped trying to convince people to see things from my perspective, and I put all the effort into seeing things from their perspective. And then
it's a lot less burdensome.
That made me a better coach. It made me a better husband, whatever, friend, whatever. And when I really focused on, and it's one of the hardest things I've ever learned in my entire life. But once you get it, it helps with everything. So once I understood that, and now all my effort goes into understanding people. Not only do I understand them, and I can talk to them better and tell them the things that they need to hear, and I understand at what point in the spectrum they are, because we got to meet people where they are. I find what point in the spectrum they are, and I keep trying to move them along the way, right? But they're also more willing to listen to me, because once someone feels, we talked about this earlier, once they feel understood, now they're open to suggestions. And if you can understand where they are, all right, okay, I'm open, and then you make the suggestion that's just one step beyond where they are, that's huge. But, the two common things is they don't feel understood, and then you make suggestions that are like 100 steps beyond where they are. So if you can do those two things... You can just kind of like hold their hand and lead them down the path, and they can make so much progress. And that's a good coach. A good coach is going to do just that.
Yeah, a big part of being a good coach is helping someone believe they can do it.
Yeah.
Right? Telling them how to do it it's easy, right? But
Right.
telling them why it's important and then telling them how to do it, that's really the easy part. Getting them to actually believe they can accomplish something is really a tricky situation in a lot of cases. Some people are going to walk in and they just think they're going to do CrossFit 2 years, they're going to win the games, and they already believe they can do it. That's great. But a lot of people, they're scared, they're intimidated. It's because they don't believe they can be as good as all those people that they already see that are in the gym.
They never see themselves as being an actual athlete.
They may have never been an athlete before in their whole life. They may have never done a push-up before. I had a conversation with somebody one time. I said the word push-up, and they said, "What's that?"
Wow.
They'd never heard of it.
Did they speak English?
You would think that would be impossible. It happened to me one time, my whole life. But
Wow.
They're probably homeschooled like me and never went to PE class.
it wasn't that they'd never done it. They didn't know what it was.
That's crazy.
So, and that's a hard perspective to take on.
Yeah.
What's it like to be
Yeah.
that person? How do you deal with that person?
Yeah.
I don't know. So a big part of being a leader, and I forget the exact expression behind this. I think I've said it on the show before, but a big part of being a leader is provide.
As Mrs. Bledsoe.
Nice
Make a
plan.
noise in the background. A big part of being a leader is providing a vision of the future that's bigger than the vision that the vision of the future that person has for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. So if
Yeah,
someone
yeah,
comes in and they
it's
say, "Man, I really would just love to, snatch, 100 kilos someday, 220 pounds," and you go, "Well, that's pretty cool. I mean, I think you could probably do 275, but let's get you there first." And they're like, "Wow, like this person believes in me." That's
Yeah.
a vision of the future that's bigger than the vision of the future that they had for themselves, and that's what being a leader is. You want to provide that future for them, paint a picture of that future for them, and then help them believe that it's possible.
And explain just what the steps are that will inevitably lead them there.
Yeah,
Tying into
and
that
now when
first
you
point
tell
we
them,
made.
yeah,
Yeah.
now when you tell them how it's going to happen, like they believe it's possible, and if they believe it's possible, then it is possible. But if they don't believe it's possible, then that's a rough road to force them down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever your mind conjures, that's what's going to be true for you.
So we have a few resources for you. So we're not going to just put all this stuff out there. And I mean,
Best of luck, folks. Go be better.
What we told you, you should be able to take what you heard right here and be a better coach for it. No doubt in my mind. But if you want to dig deeper, which I think you should, if you want to dig deeper and find some resources that are going to be really helpful, we have a few. Got them written down over here. The first book is The Art of Explanation. That's a super powerful book. That book led me to another book called Back of the Napkin. And so, especially in CrossFit boxes, there's a lot of whiteboards and chalkboards around. And Back of the Napkin actually teaches you how to communicate complex or what might be complex explanations very simply with drawings. And so it has exercises in there as well. So
That book teaches you how to be smart of yourself. The classic, anything you can grasp and fundamentally break down into digestible chunks and get other people to see. That's how you actually understand and firmly grasp the topic.
Yeah.
I think Richard Feynman said that.
like you can, picture's worth 1,000 words, You can get up and give a 30-minute talk, or you can draw this one picture. You can do 10 pictures in 20 minutes, and next thing you know, you've got hours and hours of information that
That's a
people
good
can
one.
digest. Another book is Made to Stick. I don't know if I've listened to that one, but it's been a long time. I think that's one of Doug's favorites.
Yeah, Made to Stick's a good book. It was written by Chip and Dan Heath, and they've written a number of books. Another book is called Switch, which is all about how to get people to make change. So if you're a coach, that's a good book as well. But Made to Stick is all about making your ideas easier to understand, make them sticky in someone's mind. Really easy example from that book is they talk about using very concrete, tangible examples. Like as a beginner, and again, if you've read Art of Explanation, beginners need more why and experts need more how, right? And using concrete, tangible examples makes that easier to understand. So here's a concrete, tangible example. So if you walk into, as a coach, as an expert, if you walk into a gym and they go, "Oh yeah, like come on in," and they start telling you all about the why of a CrossFit gym. Yeah, you come in here, like we do high intensity workouts. You're gonna burn tons of calories. You're gonna lose body fat. You almost feel like they're like. It's like condescending. You're like, I fucking know. Why are you trying to be like a sleazy salesman? Like I know all that shit. Like it's almost
Right.
it's almost like offensive.
Right.
They're telling you the why because you already know the why because you're an
Right.
expert. A beginner needs to hear that. A total novice, yeah, we burn lots of calories, we do high intensity exercise. Like you're gonna look good. You're gonna be buff. You're gonna be stronger. Telling them all these benefits, they're like, oh, that's what I need. I need CrossFit.
6-pack abs.
But on the other side of things, if you took the experts category of just telling the how and neglecting the why, if you walk into a gym and someone said, "Man, we have Eleiko barbells and we have Rogue racks and equipment," and you'd be like, "Fuck
what?
Yeah, this is a cool ass gym. I totally want to train there," because you understand all the what things are, right? All these features that aren't benefits, right? But if a new person, like, you're an expert, so you understand that, so you're like, fuck yeah, I'm totally going to train there. They got Eleiko bars and Rogue racks and whatever. Like,
and a sweet
they
hack
have
squat
CrossFit
machine
equipment.
that can't be beat.
Right. But if a brand new person walks into the gym in this example and you tell them what the gym has, you're like, oh, we got Eleiko bars and Rogue racks. They're like, the fuck does that mean for me?
Right.
Why is that important? Why should I give a shit and why should I listen to you?
Right.
So the art of explanation is very good because it helps you understand what to say to different categories of people, beginners versus experts.
Yeah.
And then Made to Stick comes in there and it kind of even further clarifies a lot of the points that are laid out in the art of explanation. So those are both very, very good books. I haven't read On the Napkin yet, but that's definitely on my list.
Yeah, and then another one we didn't put down, which is Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And there was something else, but I can't remember.
But those are
That's
four.
enough books.
Yeah.
Knock those
If you
out.
read those 4 books, you're going to be in good position.
Yeah.
Start With Why is more about it's more on the sales front, but again,
Sure.
anytime you're selling, really you're trying to just convince somebody to take your advice. So if you're a coach, you're selling your ideas to your client. And so the big picture of Start With Why is that people don't, if we're back to talking about money and buying things, people don't buy what you're selling because of what it is. They want to buy from people who believe what they believe. Okay?
Yeah.
Not who have what they're offering.
That's why you watch the news station that has that matches with your ideology.
Are you suggesting
Right.
that confirmational bias skews our perception of our world?
True
we go,
that.
we
Yeah,
go
it is
looking for what we
confirmation
want to
bias.
find.
That's exactly right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So the best way to sell an idea to somebody is to get your beliefs aligned. So if you ask somebody, a lot of why, and you peel that onion, you get down to their core beliefs of why they're there and what they want from the world, and then you can empathize with them, empathize with their perspective, provide understanding of their perspective. Now you have that rapport and you have that alignment, and they're much more likely to accept your advice.
Yeah.
And now all that hard-earned programming you put together will really be maximized. You'll get the most out of it.
Yeah. All right. We have some take action steps. So what you want to do is go over to barbellshrugged.com. You want to pull up this episode, and in the comments, we want you to answer some of these questions. All right. Chris Moore, you want to lead these?
Do it for real. Yeah.
What are the questions?
There are some key questions. 3 key questions to answer.
You will be better off if you go and do this. It's going to be a learning experience as you answer the questions. Okay.
Question number 1. What aspect of coaching have you been neglecting? Knowing what you know now, what do you think you're neglecting? Put it there. We can comment. We can mix the ideas up.
Yeah, I mean, it could be program design, mobility, empathy. It can nutrition. Like, what aspect of if you were to look at the entire picture of what an athlete needs to find to get success, what's the one thing that you think you could do better at?
Yeah. Athlete assessment, performance testing, listening. Who knows?
Right.
So which one are you neglecting? Number 2.
What is keeping you from getting better and refining this craft of coaching?
Yeah, so once you identify that thing, you go, oh, man, I could be doing a better job of that. Like, what's keeping you from actually getting better at that thing that you might be missing?
And then you probably could peel your own onion with that one. Like, well, why is that keeping me from getting better? And then dig further. Why is that happening? Why is that happening? And dig down to the core belief or the core restriction, the core block or obstacle, and then you can handle it kind of at that deeper level.
Yeah.
Then you will know the power of a good question.
True that, homie.
And to think, we still have one more question to go, which is question number 3. What resource could you use to address this flaw? Or resources, preferably. That would include books, websites, podcast episodes, which are a great source of information. People you could talk to, who around you, who can you travel to see, you can capitalize on their experiences and take what you need to make yourself a better coach.
I like what you just said is where can you travel? Because
I always tell people
I think the
that.
majority of our listeners do not live somewhere where they have access to that solid mentor. And that's something that we've all done is we've had to travel, hop on an airplane and figure it out, spend lots of money.
Literally
that's
what we've done
what's happened.
What we've done for a decade or more is find somebody that you need to go talk to because you recognize them as being somebody who can teach you something useful. Do whatever you got to do to get there. And then on the flight there or on the road trip there, podcasts and books, learning other interesting shit too. From all angles, you have to just be learning and absorbing.
Yeah. So
right.
you got these 3 questions. Make sure, and if you go to the website, you go to barbellshrugged.com, find this blog post, the podcast. Chris will actually, in the show notes, put those questions so you don't have to try to remember exactly what we said just now. But go there, answer them. I think it'll be really cool to see what other people say. Mm-hmm. It might be a little bit enlightening. They may say some things that we missed here that we didn't cover. They'll go, oh, you didn't even mention this aspect of coaching, and it might be enlightening to us. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, and then we'll jump in and we'll just continue the flow of value in those comments.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thanks for joining us today. We really enjoyed doing this episode, and we hope you enjoyed it as well.
Cheers. Join the conversation every week after the episode over at barbellshrugged.com. This is also where you'll find new episodes of Barbell Shrugged, Technique Wad, Nuggets and Pearls, Barbell Business, Get Change, plus new articles every day on our daily blog, written by us, guests of the show, and some of the biggest names in strength and conditioning. So, go there and leave a comment now.
Oh my gosh, wow, that's so cool. Yay, that's so awesome.
Did you like this video? If so, subscribe to our channel and share this with your friends.
And if you want even more free, awesome resources to help you reach your fitness goals, plus some updates that we only share over email, head over to barbellshrugged.com and sign up for the newsletter.